Back when I was 12, I used to live in China before I moved to the US, and I remember an incident that happened to me as if it was yesterday. I had a friend that used to live in those apartments that look like high-rise but are a little bit smaller. Anyway, in order for us to go to his apartment, we had to either take the stairs and walk up 10 stories or take the elevator. One day, we were having a sleepover at his place and we went to get the new Pokemon movie at like 6 in the evening. The store was like 2 blocks away. My buddy always talked about how creepy the apartments he lived at were because very few people lived there. I swear, I've only seen like 3 people in those apartments and I was there all the time. Anyway, on the way back, it started to rain pretty heavily. We ran to his apartment and took the elevator, and as cheesy as it might sound, the elevator creaked and moaned on the way up and suddenly stopped. The lights in the elevator went out and it was pitch black and silent. The only thing we could hear was the muffled sound of rain and thunder. We, being kids, started to panic and scream and cry. We were there for about 2 minutes when we heard a loud thud on top of the elevator. Then we heard light footsteps walking above the elevator. We got quiet and looked up at the vent facing upwards. The vent had holes in it so you could see out of the top towards the long tunnel up the building. Our eyes had gotten used to the dark so we could make out a few objects. The footsteps stopped and it was dead quiet again. My friend nudged me and pointed up towards the vent. What I saw was probably the scariest thing I've ever seen. I have never been this scared in my life. I looked up and I could make out a face looking down through the vents. It looked like an ape with human facial features, if that makes any sense. It was staring straight down at us. I don't know if it was our imagination distorting a face of a monkey or an actual demon-looking thing, but it literally made me freeze in fear. We started screaming, and I'll admit, I pissed myself. It still gives me chills thinking about it. It started banging on the elevator roof. It did not scream or anything like that, just made noises by banging on the roof. It then took off and we could hear the footsteps running to the side of the elevator roof. Then the power came back on and the elevator started moving again. We never took that elevator ever again. It traumatized us for life. I'm a 20-year-old man, and this story happened about 10 years ago when I was around 13 or 14 years old. Anyway, I used to skateboard all the time with my friends, Tim and Brandon. One day, we got done skating and we decided to go to 7-Eleven to get some food and drinks before we went home. I was only 13, so we weren't driving. We had skated to the 7-Eleven and were planning on skating or walking back home. Anyway, we buy our drinks and left the store. We walked to the parking lot's exit and prepared to cross the highway. It's not a busy highway since it was a small town. While we waited for the traffic light to turn red so that we could cross, I looked behind me at the 7-Eleven gas pumps. I noticed an old man that looked like he was around 50 pumping gas into his white truck. He kept staring, and before I knew it, he dropped the gas pump and jumped into his truck. He slammed on the gas and sped straight at my friends and I. He missed us, but he grazed my arm and knocked my skateboard out of my hand. My friend, Brandon, screamed, "What the hell? What the hell, man?" as the man peeled out and sped into the parking lot next to 7-Eleven. I swear to God, he drove through a ditch which was between 7-Eleven parking lot and the parking lot he was in, and tried to run over us again. This is where it got bad. The three of us started running at full speed across the highway and toward the local library, which was like 2 or 3 blocks away from the 7-Eleven. When we were about half a block away, I looked back and saw the maniac speeding toward us with a face full of rage. Brandon and Tim ran up to the library doors and I ran towards the woods. It was Sunday, so I knew the library was closed and there was a trail in the woods which led to my backyard. Meanwhile, this maniac peeled into the parking lot and hopped out of his truck. I looked behind me before escaping into the woods and saw him grab either a shotgun or a crowbar. I was pretty far away at this point and I was freaking out, so my vision wasn't great. I ran all the way home. When I got to my street, my neighbor, Tim's dad, told me to get in his car because we had to go to the video store, which is where Tim's mom worked. When I got there, I found Tim and Brandon. They ran all the way to the video store after realizing that the library was closed. There also were 3 cops with them. A minute later, my mom came in, crying her eyes out because Brandon and Tim told her they didn't know if I lived or not. Everyone had thought that I was captured. Tim told me that he saw the guy running after me into the woods, which is scary because I thought the maniac was chasing them, not me. Anyway, he was never caught and I spent the next 5 years worrying about every white truck I saw. I woke up. The clock says 3:34 a.m. I'm 17 and in my bedroom. It's pitch black, but I hear some rattling downstairs. Horrified, I quietly tiptoe to my parents' room. Weird. It's empty. Where are my parents at 3:34 in the morning? I head upstairs to my brother's room since he's usually awake all night. But while the light is on, no one is in the room, so I guess whatever those noises are downstairs, it must be them. Why are they awake? Maybe something happened. I go downstairs and this is what I saw. In the middle of my living room is what looks like 2 men stealing our TV. No one else is in sight. I run upstairs as quietly as possible, shut and lock my door. Suddenly, there is banging on the door. I wake up. So I figured it was a dream and the relief washes over me. I look over at the clock. Such a weird coincidence. It's 3:34 in the morning. I'm shaken at this point, but I decided to go downstairs to prove to myself that everything is fine. I go downstairs. The 2 men are in my kitchen, screaming at my parents and brother. I run upstairs to my bedroom and lock the door. 10 seconds later, I hear banging on the door. I wake up. It's 3:34 in the morning. This time, I had actually woken up and I don't manage to fall asleep for the next 36 hours.